Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy, episode 291 for the week of December 27th, 2016. My name is Ryan Higgins, and I hope you had a Merry Christmas. We will in a couple days. Who is here with me this week yet again for the first time, for the last time?
Brock Sager. Christmas 2 days ago was incredible. I spent my Christmas with Martha. This is Bryce.
Well, I'm glad the Warriors won and beat the Cavs.
It was 1,000-7. It was a good game.
Which totally they'll now lose because I just said that.
Oh, you just jinxed him?
I probably did. I just fucked it all up.
In the past.
Did we even do round introductions in the last episode?
Yeah, I think so. And who's still here?
I'm still here, apparently.
It's Charlie. He's been here for a whole week. We never left. No, for you, those at home, you know we recorded this a week ago. It hasn't been Christmas yet. The world hasn't ended.
Charlie spent 7 days in a row playing Marvel Puzzle Quest at Ryan's table.
Oh, that's
what I have to do.
That's what he does. So if the world ended in the last week and ancient civilization finds this, know that we were alive before the destruction of the Earth. So congratulations. And now we're
Congratulations, we were alive before the end.
Yeah, no, you're still alive. You're here. Congratulations. You won. We lost.
Congratulations, you have found the ruins of civilization.
And if you were curious what we as humans...
come across this podcast, they're not going to give two shits.
If you were curious what we as human beings thought of the best comic books released in 2016 by our independent publishers that we follow, Marvel Comics and DC Comics, well, then you found the right ruined civilization to listen to audio clips from.
And you must find the ruins of the store.
Yeah.
That shall be your quest. You're going to find this podcast and be like, where the fuck was this store? Where can I find these things called comic books?
You know what I didn't mention last week that's a nerdy honorable mention is No Man's Sky. No game had more promise and more...
Failure?
No, I'll give it menace, because I don't think it was a failure, but...
Sold a lot of copies, that's all that matters.
But I was like, I played a bunch, I didn't play a ton, but I played a bunch, and... I don't know, it was great, and it was just sort of, then it was like...
Toby's really happy about something.
Did the Warriors actually beat the Cavs?
I don't know. We'll find out.
No, you mean they already played.
Oh, yes.
He just forgets.
I remembered something for 2016.
Is this a comic book?
No, it's video game related.
Oh, what's your video game?
It's fucking Pikmin.
That came out like 3 years ago.
Yeah, but you fucking gave it to me like a Christmas ago, and then I got hurt with my leg, and I had nothing to do, and I was in front of the TV. That helped me a lot, Ryan Higgins. Thank you very much,
fantastic.
Man. It was a total perfect game when you're stuck with a fucked up leg that you can't stand up on because it's a total exploratory game. And I fucking loved it.
Cool.
I love that game because I really spent a lot of hours with that game, and it actually helped my days go by really fast because I went out and went into forest to find random bugs and
now,
other
Toby,
things you do when you're like stuck on a bed.
While you were
exploring the fucking forest on other planets,
while you were convalescent, while you were incapacitated for numerous months, you must have had plenty of time to read at least 3 independent comic books.
No,
at least
none. I fucking played Pikmin the entire time
of 2016. Now, Toby, I'm not giving you shit here, but
no, I really did not.
You have not read a lot of comics this year.
No, I've been playing a lot of Pikmin while I was on the bed, and then when I could walk, I did a lot of work.
The plan was to start with you for your top independent comic books.
Well, that's a horrible plan, Higgins.
2016.
That's a horrible plan.
Look at him, like...
Do you have at least 1 or 2? I can tell you what independent comics you buy from me.
Yeah, like Giant Days.
You buy Giant Days.
And...
It's a Boom Studio title.
I don't know what
you're way far
Smurfs?
back on.
A couple of websites have actually said that's a really good book
Astro
for
City.
teenagers.
Nope.
Giant Days?
This year. Giant Days.
Yeah, Giant Days has a pretty good...
I don't know. What else? I buy any Gene Yang direct to hardcover books or whatever it's called.
None of that came out this year.
Yeah.
I thought there was at least one other thing you bought this year.
What do I buy?
I don't
you
know.
tell me. You ring me up for it. I don't even know what it is.
Were there any
here.
OGNs of Asterix?
It's probably still here in the store, so I don't know what I got. Ryan, you tell me.
Oh, I know. Descender.
Yeah, you get
I
Descender.
love Descender.
Yeah.
I love my boy Dustin.
So is he picking this list, or are we picking this list?
Well, I think it's now... So, I think with the 2-hour podcast we recorded last week, we're going to have a...
I like Fuck Fairyland.
Oh, I've actually heard that was legit good.
Yeah, I really, really like that. And what else I read? That's it.
Okay. Charlie, you read a lot of comics. You read some independent stuff. Are there a couple independent books you want to recommend from
Charlie,
2016?
put down Marvel Puzzle Quest for 2 seconds.
It is one of those things where I sat here and I'm like, my list feels like it's going to be very similar to last year.
That's all right.
I still
What is it,
really
Dr. Who?
liked Velvet, even though Velvet doesn't come out with very many issues at this point every year. Paper Girls was really good. I read a lot of that.
Frank Avon, Cliff Chang.
Mr. Kayvon.
I mean, I'm still reading Turtles and that kind of stuff, even though that's sort of a different category in Serenity and that stuff. So, but yeah, I'm not starting as many new independent books as I was in like prior years. I kind of feel like I'm just continuing with the ones I like.
Yeah,
more so.
I feel like this has been a weird couple of years for indie books because while Image has launched a lot of new titles, obviously, there hasn't been too many in the last year or so that have really sort of taken off. Seven to Eternity by Rick Remender, I know, got pretty big this year. But yeah, it's going to be a weird couple of years for indie books. I'll be curious to see what happens. So I fully admit that my independent reading is not what it used to be. While I do read a lot of Marvel and DC when they release my independent stuff, and I was fallen almost exclusively to trade paperback, which is funny because I always say when people say they wait for the trade, that means they're just not going to read it, and I usually fit that stereotype. I end up never reading these books I want to read, but I have tried to actually stick to what I said I'm going to do, and I've started to go through a number of independent books. Clearly, the independent comic section should just be called the Image comic section because that kind of ends up how these things work. But I definitely want to... Paper Girls, definitely on my list. Brian K. Vaughan, Cliff Chang released a couple more issues this year. Story's getting bonkers. I don't know where the hell they're going with it, but real good. We talked about this a lot last year. What Toby just mentioned, Descender. I did get through the first couple of trade paperbacks of that. I think Volume 3 just came out. I read the first two. What an incredible book. Jeff Lemire, Dustin Nguyen. If you like Astro Boy, that sort of, those sort of elements about this kid robot that's sort of at the core could be the seed for the destruction of humanity. And
a much better AI.
Just gorgeous art. Dustin's art is amazing in that book. And Jeff Lemire has done a lot of good books this year. And Descender, because I didn't read it when it was first coming out, came out first 2015. Yeah. So now that I'm catching up on the trades.
Speaking of Astro Boy, the Manga Nation guys told me to read Pluto. Have you read Pluto?
Yes, yeah.
Which is basically like a mature take on Astro Boy, right?
Yeah.
It is incredible?
It's probably my favorite manga of all time.
Of all time?
Yeah, Pluto's amazing.
All right.
We talked about Pluto on a very early episode of this podcast.
Really?
Yep.
It was before Toby time, was it?
I don't remember if you were here. We did kind of like a one-off manga episode. And you may have been here. I think Charlie was here.
Oh. I'm sorry then. And you recommended it, yeah?
Yeah, Pluto's amazing.
Cool.
And Black Science by Rick Remender and Matteo Scalera. That's one of those books where I remember reading issue number 1 when it came out and just being like, I don't know what the hell's going on in this book. I mean, Rick Remender is good, but I'm not going to keep reading this. And then I read the trade, and this is clearly one of those books where you need to read in trade format because you don't get anything out of these things at a single issue. But when you read 6 issues together, there is so much story going on here. It's about this family and kind of group of explorers that are lost in the kind of this multiverse, and it's not very hospitable, and they're getting attacked and killed off left and right, and it's, people are kind of traitors to each other, and it's sort of this Jurassic Park, like how do we survive these crazy worlds, and who's really on your side. Really good book. Rick Remender's just been doing a bunch of good stuff the last couple of years. So I read the first issue of Seven to Eternity. I really liked it, but it's only just started, so I didn't really want to put that on this list. But I guess if I have an honorable mention, Seven to Eternity would be on that as well. So I wish I had more indie books that I have read, but yeah, it's rough. It's real hard for me to get to read trades. I can read single issues very easily. Trade paperbacks, I really sit down and try to read, and I just don't have the time to read them. So I've been falling way back on a lot of independent books. Like Walking Dead and Saga, I'm like so far back on. I need to catch up on those. Brock, you got a couple indie books and maybe an honorable mention or two?
I think for my top books, Saga's up there. Just been consistent overall, really, really good. I have 2 on here, but I'm going to scoot them off to honorable mentions because I looking at the wall, I just realized there was other books.
Well, that's your 3.
Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' Kill or Be Killed is really, really good.
Same deal. I'm just waiting for the trade on that.
Really, really good title that came out this year. And surprisingly enough, late in the year, I've really been enjoying 7 to Eternity by Rick Remender. That one's been a great read.
Yeah, issue 3 just came out, I think, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So it only just started, but good book.
So we're doing honorable mentions later.
No.
Oh, now? Okay.
Yeah, if there's a couple you want to throw on. Yeah.
Again, like all the ones that, Manifest Destiny, Birthright.
Where's all your Valiant?
I'm getting there.
All of Valiant.
No, it's Bloodshot Reborn, Exo Manowar, even though it finished this year.
Well, do you want me to order you that 1 in 500 variant cover coming up? It's a metal cover.
For what?
The
It
relaunch
is
of Exo.
not a metal cover.
No, I don't need a metal cover.
I want a metal cover.
It's a 1 in 500.
I need it for my binding.
There's just a lot of honorable
I'd like to
mentions.
see you send that to get bound.
There's just a lot of honorable mentions out there. Again, there's certain titles like I just read and trade, like Wicked and Divine.
I think Volume 4 just came out.
Yeah, no, Volume 3 just came out. Or was it Volume 4? I don't know. Southern Bastards, even though the schedule's been out of whack for this past year. There's a couple titles that I want to check out that I really was intrigued by the first issue. Animosity, the one from Aftershock
Marguerite
Studios.
Bennett.
That one seemed really interesting, so I was curious about that one. Outcast is solid. There's just
See, it's funny. Outcast is one of those ones where I was on my top show list, but the comic. Again, I have to go back because I read the first couple of single issues and there wasn't a ton going on.
It's like Walking Dead. You
yeah,
have to, I couldn't read Walking Dead in single issue; it would drive me nuts.
Yeah, I need to grab those Outcast trades.
So it's one of those things where I've read it single issue. It's fine, but again, I think that a lot of independent books kind of work better in those trade formats.
Yeah, most do.
So yeah, but that's pretty much my ginormous list of honorable mentions.
Okay, Bryce.
So I actually have been reading a fucking shit ton for Bryce standards of independent. My top 3 for this year, I'm going to give my number 1 to 7 to Eternity. There's only been 3 issues this year. Brock actually turned me on to them.
We call that the vision effect.
I've heard of that from listening to last year's podcast.
I didn't really turn you on to it. I was like, hey, this is a Rick Remender book. You should read it. And you're like, wait, there's a Rick Remender book I haven't looked at?
7 to Eternity has outperformed every book Rick Remender has done to date here at this store. So I don't know why this one's catching on fire so much. I mean, I do. It's good first issue. So
no, it's fucking not Rivik. The guy he did Fear Agent with. I'm brain farting. Artist.
I can't remember his name.
I'm gonna fucking think of it in mid sentence, which is very like me.
Is it not Rivik?
Charlie. Who's the artist on 7?
I think that it is Rivik.
I think I pay attention to artist names.
I think that it is Rivik. Sit down. It is Rivik.
Wait,
No.
only if it's on a...
Pena.
Oh, Pena!
It's only if it's on a cable book?
No, only if it's got like Alex Ross.
I knew that it was a 5-letter last name.
No, I was thinking of Rivik too, but no, it's Jerome Pena.
And
And
Opinion is who he
Skyver.
did at least the first volume of the big trade of Fear Agent with. Anyway, I did not know, to Brock's point, even though he denies turning me onto it, he literally did that by telling me that it existed and I didn't know. I love Rick Remender. I'm caught up in fucking Deadly Class and Black Science. And you know what? I didn't want to interrupt Ryan because that's not what I do. But
And the biggest lie of 2016 goes to
Donald Trump.
I didn't say the smallest hands award.
Okay. Anyway, so what Higgins probably would have agreed with when he was on his little mini Black Science rant. So I also love Black Science. I would take Higgins' commentary one step further and say that it's a lot like sci-fi Walking Dead in terms of how many people they pick up and then die, and then pick up and then die. And that's a parallel that a lot of people might miss because it's not that obvious, but it's a relatively, I think, common enough writing trope to
so 7 to Eternity.
So 7 to Eternity is my number one. So I'm loving almost all of Remender's writing. So I'm all caught up in Low. I own all but have not read any of yet Tokyo Ghost.
And it's weird. I love God, I am just brain
Sean
farting.
Murphy?
Sean Murphy. I love Sean Murphy, and I like Rick Remender, but Tokyo Ghost didn't do anything for me.
So I haven't read a single one
again,
yet.
I've read the first 2 issues, and maybe I need the trade.
I think that it was only the 10, right? They're done, right?
Yeah, something like that.
They might be. I read the first couple issues. I didn't like it.
So I own 1 through 10, and I haven't seen any new ones. So I assume that it's done. I'm not sure. But anyway, so Deadly Class has been... I mean, it's exciting at first, and then it sort of it peters out. I can see how Black Science would be a total Walking Dead thing, just read it at the trades, because really, story arc to story arc, you're going to, lose yourself in how many planets they visit and how many people they gain and how many people get killed. But while 7 to Eternity sort of fits that bill of it's still the new sexy of Rick Remender. When Black Science and when Deadly Class each only had 3 issues out, they were still the new hotness. So this may fall into that same thing, but Jerome Pena doing the art makes this book fucking incredible. So if you can, go check out 7 to Eternity. It takes the 3 issues to get going. You could get hooked with issue 1, which is what I did, but really you don't get a grasp of what the story even is until the end of the 3rd issue, I think. And so they've been doing a great job with that. So that's my number 1. I'm also caught up in... what else am I caught up in? I'm caught up in Southern Bastards. And I'm caught up in fucking that Hickman fucking crazy long-ass fucking story.
Monday Murders?
Nope.
Dying in the Dead?
Nope.
Oh, East of West.
East of West, thank you. So I'm caught up in terms of fucking soap operas. I'm caught up in Southern Bastards and East of West. I guess those would be tied for my number 2. I really like both of those, but man, I think that I've read 30 issues. Is it issue 29 or 39 that just came out?
For
East of West.
29.
29. So I've read almost 30 issues of East of West, and I could read them all right now, 1 to 29, and barely understand what's going on. Which
Did you read Black Monday Murders? Me and Brock talked about this a few weeks ago. Impenetrable to me.
I thought Black Monday Murders was great.
So don't get me wrong,
dense, but it's great.
It's dense is a great way to put it. So I've read them all. I get it. It's not that dense in terms of following what's going on, but it's sort of like Game of Thrones in that you have at least 7 disparate main parties, and each has their own story going on. And so, just on average over 29 issues, let's say that each one is going to get 4 issues of content devoted to it over the entire series, give or take, right? So it's Jesus, basically nothing has happened in 29 issues. I am being hyperbolic. I know I'd love to overuse that word, but not that much has happened.
It feels like a TV show that's gone on way too long.
Exactly.
It should have been.
I used the word soap opera earlier.
Yeah.
It a lot has happened, but not a lot has happened, if that makes sense. So anyway, I still really like it. Nick Dragotta is doing a great job with the art. It's been very consistent. Speaking of consistent, also tied for number 2, one of these at some point has got to trickle down to number 3, has been Saga. Saga has just remained...
You had Southern Bastards tied for 2 with East of West, so Saga's 3.
No, I'm saying also tied for number 2.
Why don't we move, since you can't have 9 things tied for number 2, why don't we move it to...
No, I'm not done.
Okay, everyone knows what Saga is.
Velvet's also been great, but as Charlie said...
They had like 2 issues this year.
Exactly. Well, I mean, so Brock mentioned Southern Bastards is on like this asynchronous scheduling.
So you've mentioned
like,
all your honorable mentions. What else?
Look, I'm just going to cover them all in my top 2.
Do you have any honorable mentions, or should we move on to Marvel?
So let's see. No, so Deadly Class gets an honorable mention, but not in the top 3. Deadly Class is just...
Well, I would like to tell you, our listeners...
Wait.
You know, I don't know how I get the reputation for liking everything, and you can sit here for 30 minutes just listening.
So, our listeners have mostly similar likes to a lot of us, except there's one book that jumped to the number 1 book. So the independent section of all the sections that we did in this had the most diverse answers, which is obvious.
Well,
right?
so that's another thing that you said earlier is that all the answers might as well be like the image top 3.
Yeah,
I just
However,
read that. Oh,
2 of these are Image.
I apologize for interrupting.
That's all right. That's all right. 2 of these are by Image. 2 of them are also by Brian K. Vaughan, but one of them is not.
I didn't get to talk about Paper Girls.
It's not by
Is it
Image.
still my turn?
So the number 3 book voted on by our community is Paper Girls.
Yeah.
The number 2 book is Saga, both by Brian K. Vaughan, both perennial, will be on the list. The number 1 book, and it just squeaked out by 1 over Saga, but it is Jeff Lemire's Black Hammer by Dark Horse Comics, which, again... I was waiting for the trade to come out. I've heard a lot of really good things about, but I have not had a chance to read that yet.
I haven't even heard of this. What is this?
It's about...
It's like a superhero.
Yeah, it's about a group of superheroes that are stranded on... like trapped in this small town and they can't get out in some parallel world thing. It's... I read the first couple issues. It was enjoyable. But I could definitely tell that this is probably the book that's hurting Lemire writing-wise, because he's... now I think stretched very thin in what he's writing. He
writes a lot of books.
I don't know what the hell happened with Toby over there.
Speaking of writing, okay, look, can I talk about Brian K. Vaughan for just a second?
Just a second.
So Paper Girls and We Stand Guard and Saga, like, have any? Okay, We Stand Guard is not.
We Stand Guard was just it was
okay, but yeah, all right, bad example, but. With Paper Girls and Saga, and even Why the Last Man, and even fucking Runaways, like, can we agree that no man is more capable of, like, writing a comic book issue where fucking so much happens but nothing happens, and you get to the end of the issue, and it's always a cliffhanger, and you're always like, oh, what the fuck? Like, how is this? Like, I feel like every issue of Paper Girls, I'm just like, okay, well, I can't fucking wait for next month, even though not much happened this month. And same with Saga. Like, I feel like, you know...
I found Saga's a little more, not dense in like a dumb way, but like it's a little more dense. Paper Girl is very light, very breezy, very quick. And that's the artwork is just, it's more open, not a lot of words. It's a lot more... I find the art and the paneling and the dialogue of Saga is a lot more dense, so I feel like more happens in Saga when I read it. Paper Girl feels very, very light.
You know what's also annoying about Saga is his... I don't know if... I assume that it's him, but he's got like some fucking like infantile predisposition towards sensationalism with his like the dragon sucking its own cock and like this...
Toby,
Toby, welcome back to the podcast. You know, and like the murderous little baby seal, and like
half the shit that goes on Mr. Robot's screen.
Yeah. So I just feel like so much of the shit is Brian K. Vaughan being like, look at the crazy shit that we can get away with and still be the number 1 comic.
Yeah,
like I feel like it's, I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if he's just doing it to prove a point. Like it's kind of like, look, I get it. You're edgy. You're crazy. Like I'm subbing to your fucking book no matter what because you're a good writer. Like, don't.
I think the thing with Saga is that yes, he does have those little things in there, but it's not something that he. It's something that it's not like in your face gonna happen.
Except for the 2-page spread of a dragon sucking its own cock. Like
there's a couple.
Does it get more in your face?
There's a couple things that are like that, but a lot of stuff that we're talking about is kind of. It's there, and you see it if you're paying attention.
Oh, you see it.
But I think that also, because I like the fact that there's different types of characters that he's exploring, you know, xenophobia and all these different things.
Yeah. I agree with that. Okay, that's fair. I'm not complaining about it, even though it sounds like I am. I'm just like, kind of rolling my eyes at his seeming need for sensationalism. It's like,
Well, it's not sex criminals, at least.
I haven't read that. Is that good or?
Charlie. Marvel Comics is a comic book publisher that in previous years has released comic books. In 2016, they continued by releasing a few comic books. Are there 3 comics published by Marvel in 2016 that you would feel justified putting on this list of your top Marvel comics from 2016?
Oh, are there?
Well, there is Cage.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's spelled Cable.
Unfortunately, there was not a Cable comic.
Well,
this
no year's
year.
perfect.
Yes, I know. I mean, he did appear in comics, but he did not have a comic of his own this year.
Yes.
Okay, technically, issues of Silver Surfer also shipped this year.
Yes.
So not many.
Surfer and Cage are already kind of locked in, and I actually like the Unworthy Thor book better than the main Thor book, so I'm giving it to the
Holy
Unworthy
shit.
Thor.
Have you even read issue 2?
Yeah.
Oh. Well.
At this table, while we were recording episode 1.
We call this
You did not.
we call this the Vision effect.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna make this joke like 9 more times.
I might just
it
be...
was hilarious the first time. It was even more hilarious just now. Keep it going.
So the
will.
way I look at this
I
is...
believe you.
I like the Secret Wars Thor book, and I like everything
It was good.
they're doing.
Was that
with-
also Jason Aaron, right?
Yeah. I like everything they're doing with the female Thor, but I also kind of feel like I'm a little burned out on that character just because of the Avengers and everything else they're doing with her as well. So getting to the Unworthy Thor, I kind of forgot how much I missed that character because he wasn't around for 6 months or something, really.
Yeah, me too.
And all it took was a whisper.
And dude, I've only read issue 1, but fucking that was a great issue 1.
And of course, Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan is amazing.
Wait, so
That's your top 4.
Yes, I don't care.
Which
That's
of
my
those
top
would you
4.
like to put into an honorable mention? How about Old Man Logan? Okay.
No, I'll actually throw Surfer into an honorable mention.
oh, take
Because
that.
it only Surfer's
Troll Higgins.
so off schedule.
Yeah, it's been on a weird.
It's only
schedule
only a handful of issues released this year. Really weird.
Yeah.
So for me, my number 3 book of the year, Old Man Logan by Michael Bendis and Andrea Sorrentino. Great book. I'm not traditionally a Wolverine fan, but this is definitely...
It's not Bendis,
So-
it's Lemire.
Well, if he's talking about the Secret Wars miniseries, then it was
yeah.
Bendis.
Yeah, which one are you talking about?
He's not. He's talking about Lemire's.
What?
He misunderstood.
Do you want? Is it Bendis's Old Man
He
Logan?
misspoke.
The 4-issue
He misspoke.
mini?
Oh,
Secret
I'm
Wars?
sorry.
Or are
Did
you
I say
talking about-
Bendis?
Yeah.
Yes, you
Oh,
said
I'm
Bendis.
sorry. I meant Jeff Lemire.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
I'm not trying to be a dick.
No. Yeah. No.
Yeah. I'm just saying he could have technically been mentioning a different Old Man.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I mean, that was one of the best miniseries, which is a short list, but it's one of the best miniseries from the Secret Wars.
No, sorry. You know what? I wrote down Brian Michael Bendis, but no, Jeff. I'm sorry, Jeff Lemire, Old Man Logan. Again, this is not. I like it because it's different. I feel bad for Wolverine fans because they probably want their character back, but
Dude, what?
Lemire and Sorrentino are such a great combo from Green Arrow, and this
The creative team fits well with this character.
right with what they're doing. I don't want this character to stick around forever, but what they're doing with this is just perfect. My number 2 book. It was likely to be on my list. It actually probably would have been my number 3 book, but the most recent arc bumped it up to number 2. That's Moon Knight, also by Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood. But the arc that I want to mention is a second arc that just wrapped up, with art by Francisco Francavilla and James Stocco. Who, Charlie, if you haven't read Moon Knight, you like James Stocco, right? Yeah. He does. The second arc of Moon Knight is bananas. It is like the first arc was crazy. The second arc is fucking nuts.
Well, the first arc,
Yeah,
you're
I
like, what
wasn't
is going
aware He
on?
was doing art on that book.
So basically, the second arc is 4 consecutive alternate realities that Moon Knight is.
Well, it's all the iterations they've kind of had of Moon Knight over the years.
No. Well, no. One is like a crazy, like futuristic
Yeah,
Knight.
well, that's I think that's the one that Jeff Lemire put in this one, and then there's the cabbie one, which he was a cabbie before at one point, wasn't he?
I mean, there's like an old, there's like a kind of a crime noir version of Moon Knight. There's the version of Moon Knight that's this current series, and all of them are different artwork. So panel to panel, you only know what reality he's in based on who's drawing it.
Yeah.
And the artwork is so jarringly different from each other, but it's incredible because...
Well, the first arc, you're like, what the hell is going on in this book? The second arc, you're like, what the fuck is going on in this book?
The second arc of Moon Knight has just been so good. And, I mean, there's not even a question. The number one book by Marvel, it's one of the greatest books of the year. It's one of the greatest comics ever published. That is Tom King and Gabriel Walta's Vision. Just dead stop. Full stop, sorry. No question asked, Vision.
I think all of us are just waiting for the collected hardcover.
Yeah, I mean, when it came out last year... we joked. I was like, "Can I recommend Vision as my top book of the year?" Even though like one issue had come up at that point, because it was just such an incredible comic. And that, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed with the last issue. I'm not. The last issue was amazing. It ended how I expected, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But I that book was so unexpected in every way that I was this. If it was 100% going into the final issue, it ended at 99.9%. Because I almost wished something else had happened. It ended exactly how I figured it would.
Well, maybe when you reread it in trade, you'll find out what that thing is.
Well, no. It ended exactly how I assumed it would because this is a character that must still exist in the Marvel universe in some fashion, right? She shouldn't. There's no way to justify Vision being in a Champions and Avengers. There just shouldn't. But that said, I'm okay with the way it ended. It ended pretty much how I expected it to. But what a comic! I could talk a lot of shit about Marvel, and I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, you do.
But they published They published some amazing books, and Vision is hands down one of the best comics I've ever read in my entire life, and it deserves absolutely to be on this list. It deserves to be on everyone's list.
Honorable mentions?
I kind of thought about it. There's a few that I liked. I did like the start of Punisher. Obviously, there's delays after the passing of Steve Dillon. So it's that's tough. It's a tough book to go back to. There was a couple others I had on my list. I've liked Spider-Man, Bendis' Spider-Man. I found Amazing's kind of been a little hit or miss for the last year or so, but I do like what he's doing. Ultimate Spider-Man I was never a fan of past the first couple of years, so my exposure to Miles Morales has been fairly limited, but the new series I thought has been a good take. And those are kind of the ones that I'm definitely keeping up on. So, Doctor Strange, of course, by Jason Aaron. Doctor Strange is another one that kind of I think Moon Knight may have kind of topped Doctor Strange for me. Mm-hmm. I think Moon Knight, Doctor Strange would have been on that list, but I think Moon Knight was the one that pushed it off. So, Brock, you hate Marvel just like me, but I'm sure you could find 3 comics you could like.
Oh yeah, I mean,
look, Bryce is just he's just giving this like look of hate and just frustration.
Don't misrepresent. That look is not hate. That look is just ambivalence and unsurprise and boredom at your troll-ass trollness. And
hey, I just talked about a lot of really good Marvel comics. I'm mostly joking.
Mostly joking about how much you hate it because you do love it.
Did you catch the part where I just said Vision, published by Marvel Comics, is one of the greatest comics I've ever read in my entire life?
Yeah, but you're probably trolling on that too. I don't know where one stops and the other begins. You're like the human caterpillar of...
All these books that I'm talking about are books that I absolutely love. Especially Moon Knight and Vision. And Moon Knight's not a character I ever really cared about.
I mean, okay, I was half joking, but no, that look was not hatred at all. That look was like, yeah, I'm used to you acknowledging when Marvel comics are great in front of me, and then spending a half an hour when I'm not in the room with you talking shit about them. So.
Brock, what are your 3 favorite Marvel comics?
Well, I guess 3 is Old Man Logan. I think Jeff Lemire and Sorrentino have done an amazing job with that book coming off of Secret Wars. Number 2 is Astonishing Ant-Man, because just Nick Spencer, he really nails those offbeat characters, and I think he really understands Scott Lang, and it's just a fun book to read, so it's kind of refreshing.
I just think that book was DOA once it launched, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to get a nice collection of it when it's done, but
nothing hit Superior Foes to me, but it was fun. It was fun.
It's one of those things where it's like it's not necessarily the best book or something that you put on your list for, this is an all-time great. It's this is just a good, fun read. And of course, Vision's at the top of the list. It's just been an amazing book all around. Just Tom King has done so well in giving us stories and looking into characters with, just how the narration is going and all that stuff. Like he just did a great job with it in Vision. Some of my honorable mentions: Mighty Thor, Doctor Strange, Unworthy Thor. So Aaron, all of your books are on there. I have to give a nod to the Darth Vader book because it ended this year. Yep. Gillen did an amazing job giving us 25 issues of solid Darth Vader story, and just overall, I think the Star Wars books in general have been really good this year. Not necessarily great, but they've been really solid books, adding to the canon that Disney's trying to establish. So, yep, that's it. Bryce.
I forgot one honorable mention.
Oh.
And that's Ultimates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like Ultimates.
Is it my turn yet or not?
It is your turn, Bryce.
Okay, so hey, my three. This is going to be very short and easy. My top
he's gonna
three
start with the G's,
were Mosaic, Fool Killer, and Solo.
Wait, aren't all of those books on the cancellation list?
Pretty much all officially canceled today. Yeah.
No.
So, or I should say all but officially canceled today. So
Okay.
Last week.
last week.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So seriously though, so my okay, I'll instead of go from 3, 2, 1, I'll go down because it's going to be unsurprising. My number one book is also Vision. I thought the Vision was fucking incredible, and as Ryan alluded to, issue number 12 did not blow anyone's socks off. To me, it all sort of peaked at number 11 because it just got more mind fuck blowing every issue. Yes, that's an English word, Toby. So learn it and use it. Every issue, and I think that issue number 12 was more of like the sort of the come down, if you will, of the series, which you kind of needed. Like when you're an athlete and you're like you play a game, and when you're done with your game or your practice, or whatever, you need to warm down. It's the same thing. I think that when this will be collected, I think that it needs when it's all read at once, it needs to not end on some crazy, like, explosive ending like I think number 11 ended on. It needs an issue that was still very good, but, like, to take a deep, slow breath and come down and culminate and finish the story well. And
do you guys think that was because we knew it was ending at 12 and we were so sad that it was ending at 12 that we were kind of like...
Well,
the
problem is
literally nothing happened in the issue other than the tying off of the storyline of him and his wife.
Right. The problem with Vision, if there's a problem, is the problem is the problem of all superhero comics. Is these are toys that must go back into their box in the same condition as which they were taken out. Generally, there could be maybe a little changes, but for the most part.
You could have written your name on the bottom foot,
Yeah, Tom King probably would have had a very different end to the story if he owned this character. But at the end of the day, Vision and Viv, in this case, has to go back.
But dude, thank God,
into the Marvel
frankly,
universe.
that he doesn't. I mean, in a way that I don't agree with myself on. Like, thank God that he's going to DC, because this might have ended up being like a continuing series, and then, it would have... my binding would have been all fucked up because it would have been. I mean, I'm half trolling, but the 12 issues as it were, it's like I've said on this podcast before. Like, I think that Breaking Bad is one of the best series on TV ever because like it had an ending point. It didn't just try to keep going until it got bad. And the exact same is why I put Vision as my number one, is because, like, any story that can, like, end at 12 and just be like, and just fucking drop the mic and just know when to quit, is you know, gets plus points from me. Vision, we've said ad nauseum about why it's so great. If you haven't read Vision, that's my number one book of the year. Go read it. Going to tied for number 3. I'll leave you in suspense of
Did
what.
we skip 2?
Yeah, I'm going to come back to it. Is a 3-way tie, which is really a 2-way tie. It's really a 2-way tie between Thor, Unworthy Thor, and Doctor Strange. Look.
Okay, I'll allow that.
So my
That's
honorable
fine.
mention
Yeah,
group
sure.
of Aaron.
That's fine. I'll allow that.
So, okay, thank you very much for allowing what I was going to talk about anyway. So, it's all Jason Aaron, first of all. Second of all, Doctor Strange was really its best with The Last Days of Magic. So, the stuff that came after and the stuff that came before this year, you know, you can sort of take that or leave that. But, I mean, if any relative of yours asks you what the best Doctor Strange story has been in the past fucking decade, I mean, there was no answer other than, until this year, The Last Days of Magic. And I texted at least Higgins about this earlier, and I forget if it was Brock or Charlie, but I mean, I don't think that it's all been collected in one collection yet, which it absolutely should be, because Doctor Strange's Last Days of Magic was a fucking incredible story that Bocello and Jason Aaron captured perfectly about, you know, when these people come and eliminate magic from Earth, you know, what does Doctor Strange and all of the other magic users in the world do? I said last week, so long ago now, about what would the Marvel Universe do with you know, with Doctor Strange there. It's sort of like Thanos is sort of a moot point, right? Like, you know, no more Thanos, and then poof, he's gone, or turn back time, and then he doesn't do anything bad. If you're able to eliminate that whole magic thing, that's a great story. Jason Aaron did a great job with that. And so that was Doctor Strange's Last Days of Magic by Jason Aaron. That was an incredible story this year. Definitely top 3 for me. The other one that I just had to mention is his Thors. And I lumped the Thors into their own sort of story. I personally think that he should have just stopped I mean, I understand why he didn't, because of sales and money, but he should have just stopped the female Thor book and just transitioned it as of issue 13 to the Unworthy Thor and gone back to telling the story about Odin's son. You know, they didn't, because it's going really well, and Marvel's getting lots of plus points from I guess all sources of media for having this female Thor book, and so, you know, good for them if it's going really well. I'm not disliking it. Like, I am really liking the female Thor book, but I thought that the Unworthy Thor, I've only read number 1. I was actually talking and didn't get to read Thor number 2, unlike Charlie in the last week's episode. But issue 1 was awesome, and it was such a breath of fresh air to be able to read about Odin's son and what's going on there. So I think that, you know, the female Thor, she's doing great. She's doing fine. But I think that, you know, it could have transitioned to Unworthy Thor. But if they're going to sell 2 Thor books and be successful at it, good for them. Anyway, so those are my number 3 books. My number 2 book, I'll be much shorter talking about, is my number 2 book of the year is Old Man Logan. There is an issue, guys, if you have not read Old Man Logan, I want you to track down issue number 11 of Old Man Logan. You should all read the Last Ronin story arc, because it's just fucking incredible. I don't know if it's Lemire or if it's Sorrentino that is in charge of the actual illustrations that take place, but in issue 11, I haven't been struck by a single double-page picture this year, probably in several years, like I was in the middle of reading this issue fucking 11 of Old Man Logan, when I was just like, I am never sort of stopped and just sort of stunned. And he does this from The Last Ronin's part 3 through 5. He has like some double page shit that goes on in all of these. The art is you don't know like art until you've, well, that's, again, I'm going to use the word hyperbolic. I think that I used it last week. But there's a double-page spread of basically Wolverine's entire history in issue 11 of The Last Ronin, Part 3, that Sorrentino does with all silhouettes, with no descriptive penciling, all silhouettes, and it's fucking incredible. It starts with the cause of Wolverine, his like origin story, his going through World War II, his like going through the fucking like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, to the Weapon X project, to how he becomes a Canadian citizen, to him joining the new X-Men, and like his like picture in the new X-Men is against a silhouette of red, which is, by the way, like a shadow of Jean Grey's hair, which is like another contrasting, like overlaying picture that goes over a bunch of the page, and so you know that Jean Grey is like a major part of his life, to some like silhouette of him making out with Storm, to like him joining the Avengers and killing Dakin, and it's when you see this picture in a 2-page spread, just short of a 2-page spread, it Sorrentino, and I don't know if this is Lemire that like instructs this or if it's Lemire that just says, go wild and Sorrentino does this. I don't know, but you have to get Old Man Logan number 11. It like this, it will make your jaw drop. Anyway, the Last Ronin story was so good because for how many years now has it been since Wolverine was actually a badass? It's been fucking forever since he was actually a badass. And Old Man Logan, I didn't even see it coming, has been this like breath of fresh air of like, okay, they can actually make him, he's like an old softy in a bunch of books, but in the Old Man Logan series, they've made him just a badass character that doesn't care about killing necessarily. And every issue of The Last Ronin, they have like these crazy 2-page spreads. This was just the one that really got me, I was like, holy fuck, I've never seen something encapsulated without pencils, and only silhouettes so well. And I don't know how they did it, but you guys gotta check it out. Anyway, the whole story was awesome about how, he travels to Japan and meets these characters that I'll just leave you to read about. But anyway, The Last Ronin story for me is like The Last Days of Magic, only better. You guys, if you haven't read Old Man Logan, you definitely should at least read The Last Ronin story arc from Old Man Logan this year. Okay, I'm almost done. My only honorable mention, since I had a 3-way tie for number 3, is Uncanny X-Men. I am really liking it, but it just is just shy of my number 3 place. Nope, I have another honorable mention. Oh, okay, so Uncanny X-Men. I forget because it's been a long 2 weeks. But the art has been great. Oh, no, it's Greg Land, but not always Greg Land. It's half Greg Land and half somebody else.
Greg Land. Yeah. I don't...
No. He splits it with somebody. It doesn't matter. Anyway, and is it Hopeless? Colin Bunn? Is it Bunn or Hopeless?
Bunn.
So Colin Bunn is doing a very good job. And look, I don't need anything crazy. I just need a consistent Uncanny X-Men book. And we'll get to this, I think, later this week or maybe next week when we talk about IVX. But Uncanny X-Men is like, look, the X-Men are literally Sabretooth, Phantom X, and Magneto and Monet. Like, what the fuck? In what world are those the X-Men? And I'm not complaining. I'm just kind of shocked. It was like when Brubaker took over and Mystique, Cable, and Sabretooth were the X-Men. Like, it's just an X-Men that you wouldn't really expect. Anyway, I'm loving the art. The story has been great. The story actually, which I also give bonus points for, ties into the overarching IVX story. I hate it when like stories go on and on, but then they don't impact like the main storyline at all, which happens all too frequently. This is actually like going to be impacted in and by the new IVX story, but I love the fact that Magneto's grabbed his balls and he's like actually doing something to protect mutant kind again. That is awesome. The art has been great. The writing's been great. The last thing that I will say is what did you say that I just brain farted on because I didn't write it down? No. Just give me a second.
Spider-Man?
No. Help me out.
Extraordinary X-Men?
No. Fuck that shit.
What?
Not Star Wars.
Death of X?
No. Oh, fuck that shit.
Civil War 2?
No, Civil War. I mean, does that count?
Occupy Avengers?
No, definitely not that. Civil
Home
War.
Conspiracy?
That's like a different. That's like a different category. I wouldn't. No, Conspiracy. I have plenty to say. Oh, Ultimates. Thank you. Yes, Ultimates. Thank you, Brock. You know, you'll say enough names, eventually get it right. Ken Rockefort. The whole story about the Ultimates and Galactus and the Anti-Man and what actually fucking happened to Thanos. Like, how did this whole Marvel universe is going by and I didn't until I read this shit. Like, no, like what the fuck even happened to Thanos? Literally nobody knows if you're not reading Ultimates. But if you're reading Ultimates, you know. And so, you know, that's what's happening to Thanos. And so in one of the last Guardians of the Galaxy books, they're like, wait a minute, whoa. What the fuck? You guys have Thanos? Like, Gamora just loses her shit. And she's like, wait a minute, you fucking have Thanos? Like, Drax and Gamora, like, our life's mission is to kill Thanos. You guys are just, like, holding him as a prisoner? Like, what the fuck? We've been flying around Guardian Galaxy? Like, what the fuck? Anyway, Ken Rockefort, who also did IVX issue number 0, which is possibly the best example of a 0 issue, I think, in recent memory, because it actually has new content that also leads up to issue number 1, but maybe we talk about that later. Ken Rockefort does a fucking incredible job with the art in that story. So go read Ultimates. That's my other honorable mention. And I can keep going if you'd like me to, but...
Toby. you got any books there you want to throw out for your Marvel list? No, just along? Okay. Marvel Tsum.
I didn't read a whole lot this year, but I did really enjoy the early stuff of Ultimates. I lost track of it eventually, but I really enjoyed that. And I really like Girl Iron Man. That's it. Oh, Champions. I enjoyed Champions, even though it got weird there for a second, but you know, I enjoyed that book quite a bit.
What part got weird?
We don't need to talk about it. But no, I really enjoyed Girl Iron Man, even though the second issue is just coming out tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
Third.
Oh, yeah, last week. Last Wednesday.
Of Invisible Iron Man.
Champions was
Champions
3 was a few weeks ago.
Yeah. But anyways, it's kind of it.
Okay. Well, we got some... Whoops, where's my list? There it is. It's right here. Here we go. So our top 3 Marvel comics as rated by our listeners. Mighty Thor was a number 3 comic voted by our listeners. Number 2 was Doctor Strange, and number 1, no real surprise, Vision.
God,
of course.
Our listeners are just so into...
No Old Man Logan, huh?
No Old Man Logan. I mean, Old Man Logan got a couple votes.
Freaking cool. I flipped through it right now. It looks freaking
Old Man
amazing.
Logan
The
got a
fucking
couple
art
votes.
is just bananas.
It is freaking amazing.
And they do that shit in every issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's Lemire or Sorrentino.
I think...
Anyway, I agree with all those. I mean, those are good. Those That's a 3. That's a good 3.
Yeah.
I think 13 had that big, huge, like, brain thing where his head's...
Oh, dude.
Images.
Don't even get me started on the fucking climax of Last Ronin.
So to wrap up here, we're going to do something a little bit different with DC because they had the big Rebirth reboot, and I would assume that the majority of us, our favorite books from this past year from DC, are mostly going to come from Rebirth. We're actually going to do our top 3 Rebirth books, and then any honorable mentions outside of Rebirth by DC, whether it's early New 52 or not exactly Rebirth titles. We'll talk about that there. But for me, I mean, my list was going to be all Rebirth titles. So I figure we could do 2 separate lists for DC, but I figure that's not necessary.
Flintstones is not a Rebirth book.
Well, no, it is not. And for me, that's going to go in my honorable mentions.
It's not in your top 3 books?
Well, we're doing our top 3 Rebirth
Yeah, that doesn't count
comics.
in the Rebirth, dude.
Yeah. And then a sort of additional top list by DC
that's honorable.
That's outside of Rebirth, because Marvel has their Star Wars line and they have like their kid stuff, but it's small. Rebirth was a whole complete
It was line wide
relaunch of the majority of their titles, and it's more than one Marvel that was like the Marvel Now. Like this was a severe hard turn for a lot of these titles. So kind of like the New 52. I feel like the break does deserve a bit of kind of sectioning off here. So for me, I actually have a couple surprises on here. I didn't, I could give Tom King every award on earth, but I actually, there's a couple other books published by DC that I like a little bit better than his Batman run. I love his Batman run. But there's a few books that have clicked with me a little bit that I feel need a little. I want to give a little praise to here. First one's Titans by Dan Abnett and Brett Booth. This is a book I was a little questioning of when it launched. I love Dan Abnett. Brett Booth, I'm a little hit or miss on art-wise, but I feel like this is the Titans. This is the OG Titans as I've wanted for so long that I haven't seen in such a long time. It's a great take on these characters. Obviously, Wally West being back, and he's a big part of this book. Very, very excited, and seeming like Titans is going to be one of the books that will lead sort of directly into some of the upcoming Watchmen stuff they're doing, because at least in the first arc, there's numerous references to it and kind of figure out Wally's whole history of what's happening. Number 2, I expected to like Batman. I didn't, not that I didn't expect I'd like it, but I had no idea that I was going to like this book even more. And that's Detective Comics by James Tynion IV and various artists. Detective is the real deal. That is such a good Batman team book, a Batman family book. Even the characters I haven't liked in previous incarnations, like Batwing, I really like in this book. They do a great job with that character in this title. Obviously, Batwoman, was so successful in this title, they're going to launch her off into her own book by the same creators. Other Batgirl, or she's now known as what's her face? Toby, I'm blanking on her name. What's her name now? Cassie? No, not Cassie.
Barbara.
No.
Batwing? No. Black.
Yeah, Black Bat. What the heck are they calling her now? Why can't I remember her new name now? Orphan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good addition. The whole quote-unquote death of Tim Drake was amazing, and that's, again, leading into stuff they got coming up. He's not dead. That's the spoiler.
They have Spoiler on the team. They have Clayface on the team.
Oh, and Clayface is such a good addition. I love Clayface. They basically have made Bryce. If you haven't been, I think you really liked the first issue, but they've basically.
No, I've only been reading the main line.
Well, you read a lot of the number 1 issues when we did our talk.
Yeah, but only the number 1s.
Yeah. Clayface is basically their danger room.
Yeah.
Now, so it's a cool idea.
It is a cool idea.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing with him. But number 1 book, the DC Rebirth, no question, hands down, Superman by Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. There is no greater 180-degree turn in DC than New 52 Superman to Rebirth Superman. What a fantastic book. And Bryce, as someone, because Brock I'm sure can attest to this, as someone with kids, I'm not a kid guy.
You hate fucking kids. You hate my kids.
I don't hate
my kids. Love you.
I love all your kids. I'm not a big
only
kid
have one
guy.
kid.
That said, Superman is like the book for fathers and their kids.
So it's like the catastrophe for comics.
Sure, I guess. The stuff they do with Superman and Jonathan, I don't care if this makes Superman look old. Like, this is sort of the complaint. Oh, if Peter Parker's married, then he looks old. We can't have that. Oh, if Superman's married to Lois and has a kid, we can't have that. He looks old. Like, that's stupid. The book is amazing. Mm-hmm. There's an issue where they go to a state fair, and they're just dicking around at the state fair for the whole issue, and it's fantastic.
Sounds like a Saturday.
There's issues where him and Jonathan get transported back in time to Dinosaur Island to have to go fight dinosaurs and go meet the go meet the losers and all these crazy crap.
That's going to happen on a Saturday.
The 2-parter with Damian and Jonathan was just incredible. It is what Patrick Gleason did for Batman and Robin in Batman and Robin. He is now doing for Superman and Jonathan
Tomasi.
In Superman. I'm sorry, what did I say?
Gleason.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. Yeah. Same people, same creators. What they did in Batman and Robin, they are now doing in Superman again, and it is just as good. It is the Superman book that anyone who has hated Superman through the New 52, you must read Superman. It is the best the character has been written since Jeff Johns' run on Action, and prior to that, probably in 20 years.
So my thing about Superman, and I'm not averse to, I'm subbing to Batman, I'm not averse to getting Superman, especially if it has a fatherly lean to it, is that It's kind of like Spider-Man. Like, I was burned on that, so I dipped on it for a decade because fuck Spider-Man. Like, if they're going to burn me so bad, and I kind of feel that way currently about Superman, is that, you know, there's been some fucking bad Superman. I need there to be a consistent run of Superman for X amount of time.
Well, you got like 12 issues in an annual. That's a pretty good start.
And it's all been good. They're already at issue 12?
Yeah, they're double shipping. DC's hauling ass. Most of the DC books are outnumbering the Marvel books in the new solicitations.
Interesting, because you complain when Marvel double ships. I haven't heard you say a single negative thing about Marvel.
For the 97th time, I stopped complaining once they continued to sell. That was years ago. But I do have 2 honorable mentions from DC that fall a little bit outside the Rebirth. And I don't want to say that these books are deserving of praise, because if Vision is one of my top 3 books of the year...
Oof.
These 2 books are actually my number 2 and my number 1 books of the year. I probably will put Vision as my number 3 comic book published this year.
Wow.
Because my number 2 book of this year is The Flintstones, Mark Russell and Steve Pugh.
Flintstones was your number 2 and Vision was your number 3?
Flintstones...
Skip to your number 1. I can't wait.
Flintstones is a goddamn miracle. I have, again, like I've said... on last week's episode, and maybe not yet this episode, the surprise factor of Flintstones has left me just flabbergasted. And
flabbergasted.
Okay, I was near tears over a vacuum cleaner and a bowling ball. Okay, the Flintstones is a treasure in comic book history. This will go down as one of the most insane comic books that has ever been published. People will look back at this book in 20 years and be like, this is where it all began.
Okay,
it is unprecedented what they get away with in this comic.
But is it unprecedented?
Only a little bit.
Timely. Okay, I have a question. Serious question. Because I don't disagree with that rating system, but I have to ask... You rated Vision as your number 3 based on 12 issues. You've rated Flintstones number 2 as of 4 issues.
6.
You've read all 6? Mm-hmm. You're not caught up on anything. How are you rated?
I'm caught up on most books.
Well, not Marvel books.
No. I mean, I have a couple of Marvel books I'm a few issues back on, but everything I read, I'm caught up or within an issue of.
Okay.
There's like 1 or 2 that I'm not, but most are.
Okay. So I guess my question is, you wouldn't rate this any differently after waiting for Flintstones to continue to have... Because, let's agree that Vision was fucking incredible for 12 out of 12 issues. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that Flintstones was 6. I thought it was only 4 through. You think that they got 12 in them that are as good as Vision to keep them above Vision? Because Vision was fucking bananas good. And I don't doubt that... Or I don't disagree that Flintstones has been fucking incredible, and I'm roping. But... You know, that Vision was fucking the tits, the bee's knees for all 12 issues.
I mean, Vision and Flintstones are like kind of on a very similar plane.
What I'm also wondering is, so I've read only the first 3 or 4 Flintstones, and they were fucking 10 out of 10. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, are they 10 out of 10 because they're actually as, you know, that good? Whereas I think Vision was always that good? Or is it just because it's like the shock factor of Flintstones is like, it's so shocking that it's like, holy fuck. And they do it issue after issue. I'm not saying they don't. Flintstones has been fucking incredible.
I mean, I think it would have worn off after an issue or 2. When you get to the end of issue 5 is sort of Bam Bam's kind of secret origin, but you don't know it as you're reading it.
Yeah. So you think that... Look, I'm not trying to disparage at all. I've been loving Flintstones. I'm just saying, you think that they have 12 issues in them equivalent to Vision?
God, I hope so. We'll see next year. We'll see if it's on my list for 2017, too.
Fair enough.
And of course, we know what my number one book of the year is. My number 1 DC comic of the year. We spent 2 entire podcasts talking about it. Some of us spent 2 episodes talking about it. Some of us spent 1. It's our most hated and our most loved episodes of 2016 of the Comic Conspiracy as well.
Did BVS have a comic book?
It's a DC Universe Rebirth.
DC Universe Rebirth. by Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, Ethan Van Sciver, Ivan Rice, and Phil Jimenez.
But technically, that's Rebirth.
It's outside of Rebirth. It's not a Rebirth ongoing title. That's how I.
It says Rebirth on the cover.
Fine. It's fine.
Starts Rebirth.
It starts. It's not part of.
Oh my God! Somebody punch him in the throat.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because
really
Rebirth
hard in the throat.
It doesn't
Punch him
matter.
in the throat.
It doesn't matter
Jesus.
because Rebirth to me is the most important DC comic published since.
Wait a minute.
Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is what I said, and I stick to that. It is my number one comic of the year. It is the most amazing comic I have read in a very long time. It has made me feel so happy just thinking about this comic. This is Jeff Johns' last comic ever published. It is a perfect last comic for him. And if he ever comes back, I will be extremely happy. But if he never does, I'm going to look back and go like, yep, I've read every single thing he's ever published or every single thing he's ever written. And this is the greatest single issue of his career. And it is my favorite comic of this year.
Wow. So I didn't know. I thought that we had to choose like series. So I wouldn't even have considered the Civil War 2, which I'm not sure if it would have made my top 3, but I didn't even consider it because, I mean, your single issue was better than all of your fucking precious DC books.
I mean, let's be honest. Rebirth was 4 issues, right? I mean, it was 4 issues put into one book. It's an 80-page issue. But, yeah, it's my favorite.
Which I fucking wish that they did it with Death of X, by the way, but we won't talk about that.
Brock. Mm-hmm. You like DC Comics.
Yes, I do.
Of the 29 DC Comics published under the Rebirth banner this year, what 28 did you love the most? No, just give me 3.
Yeah, I'll give you 3. I would say that number 3 would be Superman. Just because, again, I think, like you said, complete 180. The book from what we had before was just mediocre. I mean, Superman has struggled for a long time to be significant in the DC universe. And I think Tomasi and Gleason have captured that essence. And I think that it's hard to say you can't. It's hard not to include action because they team up so well in kind of this Superman is his home life where action is his when he's at the on the job kind of.
I love action, but
Superman gets the nod. But I think that the both books go hand in hand, even though Superman's the better title. Detective is second on my list, just because I really wish it was just Batman and the Outsiders. But it's been really, really good. The opening story was just hooked with Batwoman and her dad and all that stuff, and the supposed death of Tim Drake. But going into Victim Syndicate, it is just
real good start.
Jumped in quality. And number 1 is Tom King's Batman. I think that overall solid through and through. It's just been a great book. Issue 12 was just like I need to reread the issue, but I really, really enjoyed it. Honorable mentions for the DCU.
Taka.
Oh, I know. So, of course, Flintstones. But I think that what hasn't been said about Flintstones is that it harken there's something about comics, especially as adults, where we want to see. We don't necessarily need propaganda or political influence or anything. We need to kind of you like South Park because they poke fun at current day events and all this stuff and our pop culture and all this. And I think Flintstones captures that humor and that poking fun at and that kind of really giving you the this is how ridiculous this stuff is.
Yeah, but in a much broader scale than South Park.
Yeah, in a much broader and more kind of mature way than South Park does. It almost feels like this would fall into the category of the Green Arrow, Green Lantern collection that from the 70s,
Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams stuff. Yeah.
Where they tackled a lot of issues of the time, race and color, and they did the road trip across America and kind of had that going on. A similar one would be also Grounded, the Superman Grounded story, art by Straczynski. I think falls under that category of kind of really giving a realistic weight to the content that is in the book. So that, and it's just hilarious that you're going to cry over a bowling ball in a vacuum. The other two honorable mentions this year, I would say, is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman. I think that they did a really good job all the way through the New 52, and just continued it into this year because we had the end game.
Yeah, they've wrapped up the last of the arc. Yeah.
And then for me, the big thing from this year that I really liked that wasn't in Rebirth was the Dark Side War. I thought the Dark Side War was very well done, especially with having those one shots kind of give you this God view of all these characters. But I think that as an event book for DC, it was a really great book, an event book for them to end with. Was Dark Side War going into Rebirth? So.
Some of my favorites. Mm-hmm. Bryce, I know you've been reading at least Batman.
This will be the shortest amount of time that I've talked on this podcast to date, I think. So I have a 3-way tie for first, second, and third in my rankings. Oh, yeah, no, that's right. And they all go to Batman, which is the only book that I've been reading. If I can be allowed to pick nits, Tom King has a very annoying predilection towards doing captions of numbers. He does it when Batman is swimming and he's counting how much time he's been holding his breath, and he does it with the in the annual when the fucking dog. I love that story though with the dog. Over time, how he's saving the dog that the Joker apparently had, and he's training him with Alfred, and about like in that Gotham Girl. I mean, by the way, don't get me wrong, fucking love Tom King doing Batman. I think he's doing great. I don't have a frame of reference for the other DC books. I also am very remiss.
Maybe they're winning lotto numbers.
That's most likely what's going on. Very remiss in reading any Snyder New 52, because fuck the New 52. But I'm, I've heard from more than just trolls about how great it was. So I will eventually read it. I just need to find it in a good collection. Anyway, so yeah, Tom King's Batman has been great, and I'm going to keep reading it, and it has been great, and I look forward to reading more of it. My honorable mention is to Flintstones. Again, I've only read the first 3 or 4, but they were all great. I stopped reading it mostly just because, there's only so much social commentary satire that I can take before I'm like, yeah, I get it. We're all idiots. This is very funny. Like, it's very good. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. It's just, there's a lot of just poking fun at ourselves.
You can't handle it once a month?
No, I did for the first however many issues. It's hilarious. I love it. I really do enjoy it. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah. I got it. We're all idiots. It's funny. I get it. I like it. I get that enough as a Marvel fan, but yeah, it's very enjoyable. So yeah, that's my one DC book that I'm reading. It is legitimately really a great read, and Flintstones, what I did read, has been incredible, and I'm sure that DC has a ton of other books. If I had more time, money, and no family, none of which are the case, then I might read more, but I might read more Marvel books instead. But that's it for me.
Toby, Nightwing, your favorite comic of the year? Okay, good. Glad you're here. Where's Toby? I see him walking around in the reflection of the window.
Coming back.
You got a comic? You got some comics from Marvel or from DC you want to talk about here? You got three Rebirth titles to talk about?
You okay there?
Or just 3 DC titles in general?
If I did that.
Detective Comics is probably my favorite, and I loved Flintstones. Well, actually, I don't know if I loved it because it makes me really depressed when I read it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And One more.
Do you not like Nightwing? I'm really liking Nightwing. I like this Raptor stuff. I like that guy. He's cool.
If I, read instead of just buying, then I probably would. But I've just been buying them.
Yeah, me too, Toby.
Yeah.
Stay strong.
Yeah. I don't know what that means right now.
Well, it means that there's only 2 of us at this table that only read what we buy.
Oh.
Or maybe that makes only one of us at this table.
Yeah. Well, I just buy. I don't read.
All right, well.
Yeah. Well, I guess I did.
Charlie, want to take us out? Oh, I got our listeners as well.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you in terms of like Detective is a great book. I really enjoyed Detective out of all the Batman books, and that's sort of the clear winner for me. My other 2 get a little harder for me to separate because, as Brock said, Action and Superman kind of are the pair of books. Like, they're, to me, the revitalization of sort of the Superman property, and I've been enjoying everything that they're doing in those books, even sort of when you sort of take them from the sort of 2 aspects of it, and especially as we sort of talked about way back when, how much of it's kind of pulling from Death of Superman and a lot of that stuff I'm really, really enjoying. But I'm also really loving both of the Green Lantern books. Like, I can't choose between them because it's like you have all the First Lantern stuff going in the one book and then just
Phantom Lantern.
Well, it still has Volthoom.
Yeah, it's both.
Like the First Lantern is there, and
but it's the
with
Phantom
the ring.
Lanterns, man.
Well, it's the Phantom Ring that's got issues of its own.
And somebody's back in Hal.
If the first arc of Hal Jordan was good, the second arc of Hal Jordan has been incredible.
But it's super weird that like both of those books give me stuff within the Lantern mythology that is just amazing.
Yeah.
They're both just knocking out of the park. And in terms of looking at the pair, I would say the pair of these books is pretty close to as strong as when it was Johns and Tomasi between Lantern and Core.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close.
So far, like if you got turned off on the Lantern books after John's run, like a lot of people did,
come back.
Just jump in on Rebirth. You don't need to do anything prior to that, and you'll
or go to Marvel.
You'll quickly be very, very
even
happy.
better.
And pick up a book that's probably going to be canceled.
Only pick up the good Marvel books.
Yeah, of which there's a lot, despite fucking Higgins and Brock.
Yes, but don't wander into some of the ones that aren't so good, because I want you to keep reading comic books.
Well, our listeners have
the passive aggressiveness.
There's a tie for third place. I tallied up these numbers here. Number 3 book for DC, tie between Detective Comics and Hal Jordan. Actually,
is this Rebirth title?
This is Rebirth. Yeah. Well, I said just DC. I didn't break it down for them. We did get a number of for Flintstones, but didn't quite make the top 3. Number 2 is Batman. Tom King can't stop him. But number 1, and it's gonna line up with me this time. Is number 1 is Superman from DC. Superman got the most numbers. Most number of.
Wow.
Superman is.
How many votes is that? Is it more than a dozen?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. Yeah.
I'm actually kind of glad to hear that. It's been a long time since people voted Superman.
That's shocking and very welcomely so.
And again, I think it is just because it is such a different take. It's so good to have the real versions of these characters back. And Titan, that's why I like Titan so much too, because I'm like, I feel like these are the characters again. So,
Titans would have been
I think that the nice thing about Superman as well is that you're getting a Superman who's a father.
Yeah.
Right. He's learning as he's going. Like Bryce and Charlie and I are fully aware of with having kids. It's a learning process, but Tomasi just doesn't make it from his point of view. He also gives us stuff from Jonathan's point of view.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of like it's kind of that whole back and forth of you're an adult, but you realize you were their age at one point.
Yeah.
So, it's just really, really good.
Yep.
That trade comes out next month.
And those are our top comic books of 2016. If you agreed or disagreed, or you want to send us some comments, please do that. And none of those, please. But that's it.
No,
This is our last episode.
I got one thing to say.
Oh,
You
hurry
gave
up.
me some shitty news last week. Some really shitty news.
What'd I give you?
Was it the fucking half an hour diatribe that the two of you circle jerked about anti-Marvel shit?
No, I'm actually going to be anti-DC art pick right now.
Oh, yes. The new artist on Suicide Squad is John Romita Jr. Have fun with
No! Oh, I'm
Fucking-
sorry for both of you.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. And
It really
that's
sucks.
like second worst only to Cy Spurrier writing a book for DC.
Wow,
That's
seriously?
just like...
Oh, God, I would take Cy Superior writing Suicide
It's not
Squad.
Cy
John
Romita
Romita
Superior,
Jr. is
first of all.
following up Jim Lee.
So you didn't hear the other part of the news? Suspirier's doing Suicide Squad as well?
Get the fuck out.
joking.
Get the fuck right out of here. That is not true.
It's 100% true.
That is like the most pro-Bryce, anti-Troll Higgins news that I've ever heard in my life. Cy Spurrier and Romita Jr. are on Suicide Squad?
It's like the Breitbart of DC.
That
or
is like
something.
the fucking biggest troll middle finger to you guys ever.
Let me make sure I'm not making that up. I'm like 98% sure that I had a conversation about this and was
It
really...
was all a nightmare.
Dude, that is fucking incredible. That is horrible. I would feel bad for you if you weren't such a big troll. Like, that is crazy.
Well, no, you did feel bad about it because it's Romita Jr. art.
I mean, I have a hard time. I'm a man with a soul. I have a hard time not feeling bad for you for either of those, much less both of those, and especially on your new prize pony that is fucking Suicide Squad. You guys love yourselves some Suicide Squad. That
it almost
sucks,
sounds
dude.
like they're giving up on us.
Well, what's funny is we're going into the last week we got issue.
Yeah, Suspirier starts co-writing with issue 9, and Romita Jr. is on the new issue as of the new issue of previews. So
That is fucking brutal.
Fuck.
hopefully these are just temporary.
Harley Quinn will stop speaking with a Scottish accent.
Oh, Jesus.
Ugh, she'll be blimey crazy. That was.
Anyway, we're
I
gonna end-
apologize to all Scottish listeners. I
just wanna
acknowledge
say,
that was terrible.
The saddest thing is we got last week we got Justice League versus Suicide Squad #1. We're having this big event crossover with Justice League and the Suicide Squad, and then it's like they're like, yeah,
can we-
off of this, how can we fuck ourselves in the ass?
Tank it.
Like, are they trying to suicide it?
Yes, they are.
Pun not intended.
We will not have another episode until 2017, so please have a
because
good...
we are going to blow up a huge sign of 2016 and burn it in the parking lot.
Please have a good
That seems
New
crazy.
Year's.
I don't like that idea.
I hope it goes well. Be safe. Don't drink too much. And if you do,
Well,
get home safe, please.
Yes,
Thank
exactly.
you.
Lyft,
Thank you.
call
We'll
a
see.
friend.
We'll see everyone next year.
No.
If you are around
No.
tomorrow,
be
The
safe.
goal is to drive to Ryan Higgins' house when he completely sloshed and go up the mountain.
if you are around tomorrow, Wednesday, December 28th, we will have Lord Mesa, artist that does all the tons of great fan art for the Arrow, the Flash verse, Flaro universe, and tons of other stuff too. He's going to be here at Comics Conspiracy, 5 to 8 p.m. He's going to have his coloring book, as well as a bunch of exclusive prints for sale here. Some of them first time ever for sale in public. So make sure you come and join us. I'll be here. Toby will be here. Should be a good time.
Yay.
We have to thank all our good friends on Patreon. It was our last Patreon thank of 2016. So thank everyone that has donated, even $1. You guys help pay for hosting. You guys give us some money for pizza. You get these guys some comic books to read. We take a bunch of cash and credit on this stuff. So all the money that we get from this goes back into producing this podcast, hosting it, getting books to read and talk about on the podcast, pays for our movie tickets when we go see movies. You know, this we really, really do help. You guys really do help us front the cost for some of this stuff as when we're recording this. So, guys, thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
Albert Soy has an app, Plant Everywhere on iTunes. Make sure you check that out. Julian Titus has the Nerds Without Pants podcast at pixelbit.com.
The pants.
Ryan has the Preach Podcast at soundcloud.com/Preach Podcast. Make sure you check that out. Jody Lawson has the Triad Comics Anthology at triadcomicstudio.com. Manoa Place, Sam Che, Talon Bray. They are three other of our high tier backers. Thank you guys very much. Nothing to pimp. They just love giving us money. You can go to patreon.com/comicconspiracy and give us some money there as well. ComicConspiracyPodcast.com, Geekbox.net, and iTunes is where you can find this episode and all our previous episodes. Give it a listen if you would like to hear an episode once again. Rate and review us on iTunes as well. That always helps. The ComicConspiracy at Geekbox.net or that contact form. Make sure you go there and shoot us an email if you like. If you got a complaint about one of our lists or if you want to tell us how awesome our lists are, that's where you send it. Digital.comicsconspiracy.
Any emails about one of those, not the other.
Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. That is our digital website. We can go and buy all your great digital comics through Comixology. We get a nice little cut every time you buy from there, so please do that often. ConspiratorBrock.com. That's his video, pull list, and blog. Check that out. Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension. That is Charlie's Doctor Who podcast. There was a Doctor Who special that aired on Christmas Day, and it must have been great. And they're going to talk all about it.
Christmas Day.
They're gonna what? They're gonna talk all about it on the Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast.
It airs today or Thursday.
It aired on Christmas Day.
It will be in movie theaters.
Oh, okay.
Today.
Etsy.com. That's not when Charlie gets to see it, though.
Etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art.
I've seen it 4 times by then.
That is my wonderful wife, Leanne. That is her Etsy store. You can buy some art from her on there. Please check that out.
What is she doing? Is she on any special project?
She's on a six-week break from work. She's sleeping.
So commission time.
Yeah, sure.
Watching Gilmore Girls.
Ryan Higgins, Ryan, that's me. I'm on Twitter. Brock is Brock Sager. Larson, Bryce is Bryce Larson. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie's Insanity and Chaos. The store is Comics Con Store. Add us all, please. Geekbox, Comedy Button, Good Job Brain, All Talk Podcast, and Maga Machinations. Those are all our podcasts. We are going to go. Have a very, very safe and wonderful New Year's, and we'll catch you in 2017.
Can't wait for 2017.
God, thank God.